This week we are making some one skillet or one pot meals. The temps this week have been in the 50s, which is awesome compared to the teens and the 20s we've been living in for the last few months. It is very welcomed. It is a false spring. We get a few of those here in PA, but it still has me excited nonetheless. And I want to be devoting more of my time now to projects in the garden, getting that space ready. I still have some house projects I wanted to get done before garden season started ramping up. So I am not wanting to be spending as much time over the stove doing prep work and cleanup in the kitchen. So this time of year, I always try and come up with a few new staple recipes that I can have on rotation, things that are not gonna have a whole lot of prep work, not much cleanup work, and don't take much time. Like, I want dinner started to finish taking no longer than like 20 to 30 minutes. So I always try and have recipes that have ingredients I know I usually have on hand, or at least ingredients that I can substitute pretty easily. So I've come up with 4 one skillet meals that are very simple, pretty quick, and taste really good too. Hopefully they'll help you out like I know they're gonna help me out. This first recipe is going to be a Brenner recipe, or a breakfast for dinner. We are huge fans of breakfast foods at dinner time. Honestly, I could eat them all day long. They're my favorites. And right now we are swimming in eggs, so I wanted to use some of them up. So right now I am just taking some, this is maple pork sausage. You can use any flavor of like a breakfast sausage you want, or whatever you have in your freezer. You can kind of customize the flavorings with the seasonings around what type of meat you have. So we'll get this browned up, and while this is cooking away, I'm going to use that time to peel and dice a sweet potato. So I have one purple sweet potato. These things are amazing. I did not grow these. I found these locally, and they're probably the sweetest and creamiest sweet potato variety I have ever discovered. So I've got that, and I decided I'm gonna throw in an apple as well. I'm gonna peel both of these and dice them up. Now, if you're not a fan of sweet potatoes, or you don't have any on hand, you could substitute a squash variety. You could use just regular potatoes, whatever you've got. Sausage is all brown, so I've removed that from the pan. Now I'm gonna add my sweet potatoes and apples, and I'm gonna cook them until they're tender. It should only take about 10 minutes. I might add in a touch of olive oil here. Now I'm keeping everything with like a fairly sweet flavor profile. I'm gonna add some salt here to this. And I'm also gonna do just a dash of cinnamon. If you were using something just like regular potatoes, and maybe you had, let's just say, Italian or country sausage, then I would probably add a little bit of Italian seasoning, or maybe just some paprika if you're doing the country sausage. Whatever you think you would like with those combinations. Okay, these are pretty tender now. I did throw in a splash of water, cover it, and let it steam for about 8 minutes. Now I'm going to add in, where did my stir go here? Some of my sausage. I'm splitting this in 2 here. I'm gonna create some space for some eggs. For my pan size here, I did 3 little pockets, and I freshly grated some Parmesan cheese. I love putting Parmesan cheese underneath some over easy eggs. It gets super crispy under there, and it just adds so much flavor. It's one of my favorite ways to eat eggs. So the cheese goes down, I crack the eggs on top. I'm gonna season them with a little bit of salt and rosemary, or sometimes I'll use sage with this flavor combination. And then I'm gonna allow them to cook here on the stovetop for about a minute, and then they're gonna go underneath the broiler in the oven until they are done to your liking. I like my eggs, we call them dippy here in Pennsylvania, at least in these parts of Pennsylvania, but I guess you would liken that to over easy. So however you like them done, I like when they're runny, and I like to open them up and allow that egg yolk to just run all over. This is such a yummy meal. I would eat this breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Here I'm just showing you some of the crispy little edges from that Parmesan cheese on the bottom of the pan. It's so good. If you haven't tried it, you really need to. This next meal is super easy. It is a cheesy taco rice dish. I'm going to dice up one shallot here, and I'm going to get that sauteing in my pan with a little bit of olive oil until it is nice and tender. On top of that, I'm going to add some ground beef. This is 1 pound. You could use ground turkey or chicken. You could even use some venison if you have that. We're just going to brown this up. To this mixture, I added 3 teaspoons of my homemade taco seasoning mix, but you could use any taco seasoning you have. If you don't have any, you can go back to my last video and I share how I make it with you. I also added in 1 teaspoon of dried cilantro and about a teaspoon of salt. I do add in a teaspoon of minced garlic as well and allow that to get fragrant, but I seem to have not filmed that for you, but I do add some garlic. Next, I added a 10-ounce can of rotel, and I kept all of the juice in it, and about 8 ounces of tomato sauce. I also added a cup and a half of beef broth, and about 1 tablespoon of my homemade beef bouillon, just to add some extra flavor in here. This I'm going to bring up to a simmer. After rinsing some white rice, I add 1 cup of that into this mixture here. I'm going to cover this and I'm going to allow this to simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the rice is completely cooked. The final step is fluffing up the rice, and then I add a whole bunch of cheese, about 2 cups on top, but we're cheese lovers here. You add however much you want. This is going to go underneath the broiler for about 2 to 3 minutes until the cheese is all melted, bubbly, and golden brown. I like to serve this over some chips with some sour cream, some avocado, some salsa. Sometimes when we have leftovers, I will remake this into burritos the next night. It makes a great filling. You can add some more ingredients to this, like corn or black beans, whatever you want, whatever you have on hand and you need to use up, or whatever you need to bulk this up. This next dish is going to feature chicken, orzo, broccoli, and cheese. So I have 2 chicken breasts here that I am going to slice lengthwise here to make them a bit thinner and have them cook a bit more evenly. And I'm going to season them with some of my homemade ranch seasoning blend and some salt and pepper. If you're interested in that ranch blend, I also made that in one of my last videos, and I can link that here on the screen or down in the description if you are interested. I'm going to get my pan nice and hot here with a little bit of olive oil. I want to sear these chicken breasts. I don't need to actually cook them all the way through, just searing them on each side, getting them nice and golden brown, locking in all of the juices. I've cut up a small shallot here, diced it finely. I'm going to add that into the pan and allow that to start cooking and getting tender. I'm going to remove my chicken and set that on a plate to the side to be added in later, and it'll finish cooking then. Now for some garlic, about 1 or 2 cloves minced. We're going to just heat them up until they get nice and fragrant. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of olive oil, get my pan pretty hot. I'm going to add some orzo now. This is uncooked orzo. We're going to toast it. If you've never tried toasting your orzo before actually cooking it, it really adds so much flavor. You should definitely try it. So this is 8 ounces of orzo, and we're going to toast it for 3 to 4 minutes. Now that the orzo is toasted, all nice and golden brown, I'm going to add in 2 cups of my homemade chicken broth in here, along with 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon. If you don't want to use orzo, you can use a different type of pasta. If you're not boiling the pasta beforehand, you're cooking it and it's going to absorb whatever liquid you are using, then you would always want to double the amount of liquid to the pasta. So if you're using 8 ounces of pasta, you're going to need 16 ounces of some sort of liquid. I've brought this mixture back up to a simmer, added in my chicken, and I am going to now cover this and allow this to simmer for 8 minutes. This is now going to get topped off with some sort of veggie to steam again. I used broccoli. You could use carrots, you could use asparagus, zucchini, whatever you want. At this point, you would just steam your chosen veggies. I used probably about 2 cups. Then the lid is going to go back on, and these will steam for another 8 minutes. Now it's ready to be topped off with some cheese. Like I said, we're cheese lovers here, so a lot of my dishes get cheese added to them. I had a block of Colby Jack in the fridge, so I decided to grate that up, but you could use any type. I like to use cheddar with this one as well. For this next dish, we are making a creamy chicken gnocchi. I have a pound of chicken here that I have diced up, seasoned with some Italian herbs and some salt and pepper. I had my pan nice and hot. I wanted to sear these. Whenever I dice up chicken, I want to make sure to sear so they don't get tough and dry. You want to lock in all of those juices. Those we cooked all the way through. Put them onto a plate and set them aside. Now I'm going to saute some asparagus. If you don't like asparagus, you could use broccoli, you could use spinach or kale. A green veggie just seemed fitting to me, but you could use whatever you want. I like to saute these up until they're pretty much fork tender. They're going to continue to cook in the dish a little bit, but I like to char them. I think it makes the most flavorful asparagus, and that's how we like it. And I just season them up with a little bit of salt. Again, removing that off to the same plate as the chicken, we're going to make our sauce now. 1 tablespoon of garlic goes in. I'm going to just heat that up until it's nice and flavorful, starts to get golden brown. Be careful not to burn it. And now we're going to add some chicken broth. This is some of my homemade chicken broth. I just brought it out from the freezer. 1 cup. I'm also going to add about 2 teaspoons of the chicken bouillon here. Make sure to go ahead and scrape up any browned bits on the bottom of the pan that contains so much flavor. I'm going to bring this up to a simmer and add in the gnocchi, 16 ounces. The gnocchi will simmer for about 3 to 4 minutes until it gets nice and tender. It's going to soak up that liquid. Then we're going to turn off the heat and add 1 cup of heavy cream. Now this is very, very rich and creamy. If it's too much for you, I would suggest using either half and half or just some milk. One cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese goes in. Stir that up until it's nice and melted through, and then add back in the asparagus and the chicken pieces. Just for fun, I added in a 1/4 cup of white wine and a pinch of nutmeg. I like adding nutmeg into my cream sauces. It just takes the flavor to another level. Alright friend, 4 simple, quick, and delicious one skillet meals to make dinner time easy and stress-free. I hope you enjoy these recipes and got a little inspiration for your own kitchen. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you're going to be trying these recipes down in the comments. Also, be sure to check out my latest videos. I'm now posting twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays, so in case you missed them, head over to my page and get caught up. I appreciate you all so much. You have a blessed week, and I will see you next time. Take care.